Okay, great. Cool. So welcome everyone on the training. This will be the lecture about the Webpack. So let me share my screen. First of all, I'm Jacek Polak. I'm one of the mentors. You can read about me here on our Rolling Scopes website. I don't want to dig more about myself, so I think we can proceed. So welcome again on the lecture. Let's start. If you will have, of course, questions, please write in the Teams chat, and in the end, I will try to answer some questions. Great. Okay, so today we will talk about the basics of Webpack, and by Jacek Polak, so it's by myself. Great. So what's the Webpack? In general, when you had a chance to read about some building tools, Webpack is one of the tools which is exactly trying to build and put our assets in, like, bundle them and put in the one simple resource. It's a very, very short definition. And it's based on some graphs, which I will mention later on. Definition from perspective of the documentation looks like that. It's a bundler for JavaScript and friends, so other kind of resources. By default, it's JavaScript. Pack many modules into a few bundle assets. Code splitting allows for loading parts of the application on demand. Through loaders, modules can be CommonJS, AMD, ECMAScript 6 modules, CSS, images, JSON, CoffeeScript, Flash, etc., etc. So, and custom stuff. So this definition you can easily find on documentation. To visualize how the Webpack is working, the best will be to show you this animation. So let's imagine that Webpack can be very confusing, but it's quite straightforward from the very beginning. It takes a bunch of different assets, different files of different types, of course, JavaScript, images, PNG, JPEG, and styles, as we see on the left side, right, of this animation. It bundles our code and assets together as a one JavaScript or one CSS, and we can also decide if it will be other files. In general, by default, it will be just one JavaScript file. It manages dependencies, so it makes sure code which has dependencies needs to load first before other parts of code. It will take care of it for you. So you don't need to think how you will implement your code, which order, and if something is undefined, etc. So it's awesome that you can rely on the Webpack by default. Why we should use this tool and when we need to start working with Webpack, I would say, right? Or even the main question could be, should I use Webpack, right? If you are building a complex front-end application with many non-code static assets like CSS, images, fonts, etc., then yes, Webpack will give you a great benefit. If your application is fairly small and you don't have many static assets and you only need build one JavaScript file to serve to the client, then Webpack might be more overhead than you need. So it's quite straight. But we are saying that there is a graph of dependency, right? So let's imagine how our browser is working from the very beginning. So we as a client, in that case, is a browser. trying to reach some resources. Depends how many of them we have in our website, application, web application. Then this graph will be related to amount of these resources. So as a client, we want something from the server. Okay, so we're trying to get this resource by HTTP. Our server try to reach this file and giving us back as a resource. And this amount of requests, it's related, can be related to our performance in the future. At the beginning of your path in this running scope school, right now you can imagine that, okay, it's working, that's fine, but later on in more advanced projects, you will also need to rely on the performance, and Webpack can help us with the performance. So in old school way, we could have a lot of script tags, a lot of vendors connected like jQuery, some plugins, and then our main JS file. And each of this will be related to this flow which we see right now. Okay, so also when we would like to, which features we would like to use from Webpack is like prevent multi-files loading. So for each functionality, we will get one file. Safety concatenate and combine files without scope collision. So we can imagine that we can declare some variables, right? So and the name maybe will be used already in the jQuery. Then we can have a collision, and then we need to like dig into how and where is the problem, right? And Webpack will give us the solving this issue by default. Start using JavaScript modules based on Node.js. Start using ECMAScript modules, use automatic dependency collection, and more features. To start with Webpack and have an installation, we will use Node packages modules, which is npm. Please let me know in our chat who was using npm already, giving like +1, for example, and 0 for those who are quite new for npm. Let me check your answers. Okay. So plus and minus is like so-so, as I understand, right? Okay. So many of you already get a chance to work with npm. So I will just mention for those who are not so friendly with npm, how to set up from the beginning our package.json, not by hand, by maybe like npm init if it's installed Node already. So we can use npm init, which will ask us many questions, or we can use the shorthand npm init -y, and it gives us like fast flow of initialization. Okay. Then we need to add Webpack, so we will just install as a safe dev. It means it's like development dependency. We don't need to share the Webpack itself to our customer for the final product. And then we will see our package.json from the very beginning. And after installation, we see that Webpack and Webpack CLI, it's coming to our dev dependencies. That's great. Later on, we just need to add script. I name it like a build, and then this script will try to run a command, which is Webpack. And that's it. it's not that's it about the presentation, but I think it's enough for us to start working with Webpack, right? I would like to show you the example with the coding, and then we will proceed. So, so I hope you see my screen. Please let me know if you see my editor. Okay, cool. And if it will be like too small font, I will try to make it bigger for you. In general, it's super simple file. It's like alert hello Webpack. From Webpack perspective, we expect to have this script inside of the source folder. So this is the only thing we need to know, because if I will move this out from SRC folder, it will just do nothing for us. Okay, I will try to open it in the default browser and show you that we have hello Webpack here, right? And from console perspective, our resources which we have right now, if we will refresh, sorry, is just HTML and one file. Great. So, so we have our simple index HTML and index.js. Great. So now we will do npm init. It will just ask you a couple of questions, or we can stop and do npm init -y and do it like very fast for us. Okay, great. Then we will just install our Webpack. Npm install. I have in my history already npm install save dev. Oh, maybe not clean Webpack, but Webpack and Webpack CLI. Great. So now we are just installing packages. And it's done. So in our source code, we have already our package.json, we have package log with our dependency modules to keep it always the same. And what we just need to do is we are just adding build and saying like Webpack. Great. Save. And in our terminal, okay, I see from Przemek it's too small, so I will make this bigger and this bigger for you guys. Now it's better. Okay, cool. So we have this build, right? We have in our console right now possibility to just run npm run build, which will call Webpack. And we see right now hash, which is something which we will discuss later on for caching and preventing caching. We see that we have one main.js file as an output, which is like entry point from src index.js. Great. And warning, of course, that there is a missing configuration in general, and by fallback, Webpack will run it as in production mode. What it means? Let's see files. In this, we have like right now minified file, which is stuff related to the functionality which we've got by default from Webpack, which is like ECMAScript, modules, and all stuff I discussed in the slide, what kind of benefits we have, and our piece of code like as alert, right? It's just here. Great. And as you see, it was quite simple, right? To see how it's not in the production mode, I can do like a very fast change. -D is like development mode. And if I will run this one in development mode, what will change? We will see here. And now it's more for humans, a little bit more, right? So we see more information, a lot of comments, what kind of Webpack would like to add for us. And also it's like eval, which is evil. In general, in JavaScript, we are not using eval, and it's for our development purpose. So, and now if I will run our website, it's also giving me hello world, but okay, to see difference, maybe in HTML it's good to point our main.js, which is in dist. So I need to change to dist and to main.js. Great. And now when I refresh, I have working Webpack file. I have min, which is here, main.js. Great. And now also in sources, I will see that there is dist main.js, and also I have like source map for our files, right? So now I see pure file, which is here. Okay, and I can debug when I'm running. Great. So I have all possibility to have development in progress. Cool. So it was quite simple, right? Nothing tricky, not a lot of coding, just installation and running, few commands. But to make it more advanced, we need also advanced example, I will say. For that, we will need to talk about loaders a little bit, but let me think. Okay, maybe before loaders, I will show you a second example. So 1 second. Let me just switch to the example, which is website. I will revert my changes, right? Okay, so let me show you a website structure. Cool. So from website perspective, I need to delete this one. Okay, let's clean up a little bit. Okay, and website. Okay, cool. So now I want to also open our website. And this is the website which is doing like, it says header, some presentation, some logo, and some functionality to show our presentation. So by click we have presentation, and it's showing and hiding, changing the title and the button, right? It's fully working presentation here. Cool. So let's see our code and what's included. It's more connected to the things like people can do right now by pure CSS and JavaScript. So from the very beginning, we can rely on some CSS structure. Of course, we can put everything in one file, but this hierarchy in the styles, it's more relevant for keeping eye on the problem and not scroll all the time for the CSS. So we have like settings, we can normalize for all browsers, a lot of comments, a lot of things from reset perspective, and have a bunch of styles connected. Utilities for hiding elements, something for elements like button, and for container, for header, and for presentation. So it's very, very simple structure, right? In scripts, we have like DOM selector, where we see like by pure JavaScript query selector. And in JS, we have the state for hiding, toggle presentation, toggle button, and of course, like some console test here, I can remove it. Yeah. And adding event listener for the button. Great. So our structure, and we see like here, because index.js is using our DOM selectors, I mentioned about the dependency graph, right? So it's exactly here when to start using the presentation content, which is here, okay? And in index file, I have to import, right? So load the scripts, which I will use later on, and the very, very beginning. It's the same for our files here in the CSS. This is the way how we handle it. And it can become how many requests we will have. So here we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There will be 1 image and 2 script files, so it's 9, and then of course like some HTML file. Okay, so it's like 10 elements to load. And we can see it as well here in the network panel, how many requests we have, okay? Also from the iframe perspective, a lot of stuff from slides. Cool. And now to work with Webpack on this kind of website, so how to transform it, we need to, of course, do the same steps. So let's jump here. Okay, npm init. Very fast. I'll go to this one. Save dev. Okay, it's installing. At the same time, I can go to our package.json and do the same. Build and running Webpack. Great. So let me npm run build. Okay. And it's a problem number of arguments. Okay. So why it's not working? Problem is because our index.html, index.js is by default should be in the flat structure in src. And where is our index.js? I did like a structure, so it means it's hidden. And now to fix it, we will need to change a little bit of running our script. And to do that, I need to create our Webpack file. Okay, so I will add new file, which will be Webpack config.js. Great. And to have working Webpack, by default, we're just starting by modules because we said everything is a module. So module export. Great. And we need to say like entry, and then we're saying, okay, it will be in src scripts and then index.js. Great. Saving, and let's try to run again. Now, great. So now entry point, which will be as a main.js, it's getting from our path. So we are starting to customize a little bit of our work, and we see our scripts, also production, and it's asking us, okay, still we don't have mode, so let's make mini changes like mode and development. Great, and let's run. Great. Let's see right now, and again we see right now here all changes. Cool. If we don't want to have this eval stuff, we could turn on by adding DevTools here. So DevTool, and we'll say none. So we don't need to have source maps. And right now we should have much cleaner file. So now see, we don't have so many comments in, and there is no eval. And in the very end, it's wrapped in intermediate involved function expression. And we see our file, it's really like our JS. Okay, great. So next step, of course, we would like to use it, right? So how to do it? Script source from dist, and now it's main.js. Great. So what I need to do, if I will right now try to comment it, and sorry, I need to open my file. Great. If I will run it, it's not working. And why it's not working, right? We have in the console like show presentation button, it's not defined. Okay, great. So as we know from the very beginning, we can start working with modules. Okay, so DOM selectors, and we need these selectors. As a module, we need to export, to import, we need to export stuff, okay? So we just export those two stuff. Right. And then in our index file at the very beginning, we would like to import, and what we would like to import. So we would like to import both files. So, and like this, and this part from, and it's from DOM selectors without JS. Great. Save. And now it should be visible. Let's try to run it. Great. And now also, please check. Here we have dependency already. Okay, so our main.js, it's combination of those two files. Index.js, it's getting DOM selectors, right? And producing for us main.js. Okay. And now when I will refresh a page, I have working solution. Great. What changed from network perspective? I have only one main.js instead of DOM selectors and index.js. Okay. Of course, it's bigger from the development perspective, right? If I want to work with production, as I mentioned, we can very fast create some hack. It's a like build, and then make it like prod. And I will say Webpack and -p, which is the production version. So if I will run prod here, now instead of 5 kilo main.js, it's 1 kilo. Okay, so without comments and everything, you just minify it, and I have really nice fast version, and C as well. And there is nothing connected there like I, B, C, D, and so on. Like we see very short name convention for variables, but everything should work. Great. Let's back to the loaders, because now I would like to discuss what we can do with the rest of the files to eliminate amount of the requests. So let's back to presentation. Is there anything clear for everyone, or it's too fast or too slow? I don't know, guys. Please give me like feedback. It's also useful. It's okay. Great. It's okay. So now we will talk about the loaders. What I can tell for you about the loaders. So bundling JS files is one of the simple because it's the default behavior of the Webpack. Okay. Besides that, we have a graph of representing like possible of bundle different types than JavaScript, which we showed from the animation. To do that, we need to install some packages and modify our config. Okay, so loaders are transformations that are applied on the source code of a module. They allow you to pre-process files as you import or load them. Everything we can read in our documentation about the loaders as well, and I will try to point only loaders which we would like to use, but before that I want to show, oh, sorry. Okay, full screen. It shouldn't be like that. It should be here. Okay, so from Webpack perspective, we have a loaders, and let's see what kind of documentation telling us about the loaders. We have the loaders which are connected to the files. We have to JSON, to translating, templating, styling. Okay, so this is the topic which we are interested in. And first, we will try to get CSS loader. So we would like to load CSS file with resolve imports and returns CSS code. Great. Okay, so let's back to the presentation. So first is a CSS loader. It interprets import and URLs like import require and will resolve them, right? And next one will be styles loader, because first we will have connection between CSS in our JavaScript, and then we need to somehow apply it in our HTML file. It's inject CSS into the DOM. Great. Okay, before caching, let's back to the code. Okay, so what I would like to do is to give you installation. So we would like to install our SafeDev CSS loader. Great. Done. And then let's back and try to use it. So from Webpack perspective, to start working with loaders, there is an additional piece of the object which we need to add. There are like rules. Okay. And it's array of rules, because we can expect to have a lot of different types, different dependencies. That's why it's array of our check. and in each element is like an object, and what we want to do is just we are testing the extension of the file. So it's like a test, and it's a regular expression, which is need to escape CSS. It's like ending with CSS. Okay, and now our rule will look for each CSS file. And now what we want to do with them? We would like to use some loaders. And which loader we just installed? It's CSS loader. Okay. And now let's save and let's run it. So now I should just run build. It's a problem because Webpack configuration object. Okay. It's object, the rules module. Okay. So let's see what else we need to do here. Okay, so in our file in index, we would like to, for example, import. And what I would like to import. So, for example, some styles. Let's say settings. So I will say like CSS from, and now we are going back, going to the styles, going to settings, CSS, right? Okay. Let's try to run again. Please correct them, blah, blah. Schema. Okay. Test. Okay, so it's a problem with regular expression. Second, so here. CSS. Let's me test. It should be fine. Let's try to check in the documentation then. And looking for CSS loader. Great. And we are using test CSS module rules. Let's try to copy it this way. Maybe there was like a typo somewhere, but we don't have styles loader yet. Apply this only for some modules. Okay. Maybe we will need to have styles loader at the very beginning. I want to show you one by one, but I think maybe we can add it at the very beginning like this as well. Styles loader. Still no. Okay, so Webpack is using the schema. And let's dig into it more. So 1 second. Okay. Great. So now we need to run rules. Okay. Okay, so we are requiring stuff. Okay, now I got it. So it's a path problem. And we will do this way. So because we are looking for our development. So, okay. Because we are looking for the path where the files are, I forgot to add at the beginning, like require path. And then we need to show also where our files are. So usually we also need our output. So from the out perspective, we can say which file name will be as a result. So by default it's main.js, and now we just saying, okay, it can be main.js, it can be scripts, and it will be here as a script, right? But let's keep as a main. And now we need to say where our path is. From dir name is our root from node perspective, so it will understand where is the root of our site. Cool. And now we need to have module, which was missing. Okay, and because now in the module we have a rules. Great. So now let's try to run again. And now it's working perfectly. So we are getting the settings CSS inside. Let's see how the dist file looks like. So here we already see at the very beginning there is a CSS loader, and we have some stuff already in place, which is really great. So let's try to do the same with all our files, and let's load them a little bit faster for you. So what I want to do, it's in index.js. We can name the CSS, but in general, if we are not using in the lower part of the code, we don't need to like import and assign to the CSS variable, right? So we can do it straightforward and just import like that. I would like to make it fast here. So I will just copy from here. And of course I can make it in the same order, but I will want to show you like, make it fast. So for example, import from and like this. And now I have all imports already in place. And what I can do from perspective of our styles, let me think. So in the index already, if we are importing, we don't need to have them here. So I can remove them. And now this is a main file. If I will run it and import from, okay, so path, one more stuff. So it's not this, it's one level up. So we are in the index, we are going back one level, then trying to import index and going to strong. Okay, so naming, if we are not using naming, then we don't need to from. Okay, cool. Webpack, great. So now we have entry point, we have all files included. let's see our editor. Let's see our main.js and see here and a lot of CSS already in place. Cool. So our main file, main.js file is growing a little bit, right? Let's refresh. Great. And okay, it's working. From console perspective, no issues. From loading perspective, it's one main.js file and it includes all stuff. How the website looks like. So let's see our body look. So what Webpack did, it took all the CSS files and placed in the header like style element and inject. And here in the dist we have like our file. Okay. Is that clear for everyone, or do we have questions? So I see some questions. Why did I have some error? Okay, maybe it's later. You forgot module rules. Okay, thank you guys. It's always a better approach to import CSS in JS instead of HTML, or it's only good to certain use cases. I will say it's good to import to CSS, and later on we will discuss about the performance and chunks. Maybe not chunks in details, but from perspective of JavaScript later on in such frameworks like React or Angular, you will be familiar with some styling flows like styled components, where your styles can be attached to the JavaScript module, and then when you don't use this CSS, you just don't load the CSS. So it's for sure better than load whole site. I don't know, we have 10 tabs with different views, and you just load for the homepage, contact as well, or about me, or I don't know, my products. You don't need these styles until you load this page. So I hope it will be enough answer for your question. So what we see right now, we can remove the scripts. We have much cleaner file, right? For some people can be like confusing why we don't see styles at all here, right? But yeah, I think you will used to it. And the configuration itself, it's not such big. Cool. So we had the loaders, and sorry. Okay, and I want to also discuss something which can be tricky. What is the order of using our loaders? So in the array, it's reading from the right to left, because first we need to have a CSS loader, and then we need to have a style loader. Style loader, it's exactly what's happening in the DOM, right? So it's from right to left. From development perspective, it's easier to reach the last element from the array. It's faster, right? So just getting pop, and using one by one, and it's faster method to get the last element than just getting all the time the first and eliminate the array. But you should know it from some already kudos which you were working on. Okay, so let me talk on the next topic. We have our styles, we have our JavaScript, so we can proceed with caching. From caching perspective, we can say that our file, it's doing the bundle. It's a main.js, as we get a chance to see in the network panel, and then we are sending this dist folder, I mean the content of it, to the server. And what server is doing with the caching is trying to, of course, get your file and store it somewhere and remember on your device, I will say, or like a sum of the file. And why? Because we would like to reach for next load our page faster. As a great example, we can see any page like, I don't know, GitHub. So let's see GitHub page, right? So in the network panel, if you will get a network panel, yes, all files, we load for the first time, okay? And we see like already this cache. So I will refresh hard, or maybe enough, like prevent, disable cache, and reload again. Okay, so we see here what's the size of the resources from the GitHub. Okay, how big elements we have, like GitHub, it's here. So let's only filter CSS, for example. It says 70 kilobytes and 26 kilobytes. Okay, it was transferred for the first time because I prevent caching. And now when I will refresh again, what's happening? It's the sum. This is something which you should be familiar already because we saw it in our Webpack terminal, right? It's here is a hash. Okay, we will use it later on. And now when I will reload the page, look, disk cache and how the resources are eliminated. The page, it's fast delivered for us, right? And what could be the risk later on? So if we don't have this hash name connected to our file, when we will upload small fixes, I don't know, something were wrong in after deployment and we've got like notification from the customer, let's fix it. So I will upload the file, which for example will be the same name, and then my browser will read from disk cache this file. It means my customer will call me like and say, okay, why I don't see changes? Oh, please remove cache and reload. No, this is not needed for the customer, right? The customer don't need to be IT person who don't know how to disable cache, how to make like hard reload, like you just clicking or going to the options in your tabs, blah, blah. So that's why for every time we make some changes, this hash should change. And when we apply, browser will not recognize this file in our disk cache and just load like a fresh. So this is very, very useful for us. Okay, so caching. Which resources should be long-term cached? So as we saw from perspective and we discussed from old school way, there are some vendors. Example, it's like Bootstrap. There is a Lodash. There are like libraries or frameworks like React, Angular. Usually we download them, some version, and inject to our project. So how many times in your project life cycle you just remove this, replace React, okay? It's not often situation. So that's why I would say vendors should be like in one specific file, and then like images, for example, I don't know, logo, it's not changing a lot, maybe with the tweaks for Christmas or any situations when there must be like some changes for logo. But usually images like logos are quite static images, right? I mean resources, but which shouldn't be long-term cached. It shouldn't be like an application code, so changed often, our files. That's why we need to make sure when we deploy new functionality, we will push as soon as possible the results to our customers. So they need to get the fresh version without like some of them got clean cache and see the results. Some of them will not see our features, and then we can have quite a lot of problems and it not looks good from perspective of the company or any project you are working on. So again, coding time. So what we will do right now, we would like to apply some caching. Great. So to make it, it's quite easy in the Webpack. So for the main, there is possibility like add like content hash here and save. Okay, so this content hash it's for us right now available each time because it was in each build, as you see, but we never use it. So after running again npm run build, what we will get? Look, it's a main with existing MD5, I will say summary, some number, okay? And from perspective of our code, what we see, it's an old one, it's a new one, and when I will go to, for example, our index file, I will say console log hi from script.js, save, and I will build again. What happened is like new number, right? Great. So, okay, but, and I'm sending this on server. But let's say someone said, okay, but you left your console log in the comment and this is a bug. So what we will do as a developers, we're just removing it, save, and please remember the previous one. The current is 16, previous one is 41. So my question is to you on the chat, please tell me what will happen when now I will build right now. What do you think it will happen? What kind of name we will get after I removed console log? Any ideas? New? That's quite like we can imagine that it can be like new number, but the Webpack itself, it's quite nice. And look, did I save my changes? A second. And how many files we have? 16 was the with console, 41 without. So Webpack checked already that there is no difference between already generated files, so we can use the same ID. So if we will send it to server, nothing happened, right? So it even the people who had already cached this file will get again properly working file. But it's quite tricky because, as we see, each time we are building files, we have new number. I mean here, right, the sum number. But from perspective of our source, I mean here in elements, we still have dist. It probably is too small for you guys. It's still dist main, right? If I will refresh, it's a dist main. Yeah. So it's without console, and I will not get this changes at all available. So what we can do next, we need to think about the plugins. So plugins, while loaders are used to transform certain types of modules, plugins can be leveraged to perform a wider range of tasks like bundle optimization, assets management, and injection of environment variables. Which kind of plugins we are interested in for our case? It's HTML Webpack plugin. This plugin will generate the HTML5 file for you that includes all your Webpack bundles in the body using script tags. So this is the definition of our plugin. So let's try to use it, right? Let's try to use it again in our example. So I will try to install it for the first place, and let's read in documentation first with you guys. So let's look for it. So we have HTML plugin. Of course, we need to install it, right? So we doing the website Webpack plugin, great. Then basic usage. Okay, so first, if it's a plugin, it means we need to plug in. We need to import it in our file. So let's go to our Webpack, because in Webpack we will use it. So let's require is by default in Node, right? So you don't need to install require, already included. And else, what else we would like to have? It's a plugins, okay? It's in the root of modules on the same level, and we would like to add it here. So we have HTML, like a new instance of our plugin, great. And as well, we can have a lot of plugins, so it's array of plugins, right? Quite simple. Okay, I'm just checking if you have like some questions, but nothing as I see. We have installed plugin. Okay, so we can try to run it. npm run build. What's happening right now? We see like a child Webpack compiler. It's here, great. Is there anything new? It's index here, and now something weird happened, because in our dist folder now we see index file, and we see our connected bundle. That's great. So it's 4.1, it's a connected bundle. If I will again change something in any of DOM selectors, or maybe here, I will back console log. It should be already defined. I hope it will do the same to not waste our stuff. It's 16, great. And let's see in the code. So in index 1.6, great. So, but where is the content of our page? So that's the tricky part. In general, this plugin expects as well from us some changes, like it's looking for the source folder and trying to get template name. By default is a template. Sorry, I need a drink. So we would like to add a template. So what I do is a template HTML here. I would like to get as much as I can from our index file. So I'm pointing here. I don't need to have a script anymore. I don't have styles at all as well, so I can save. Let's try to run again. So npm run build. Great. And now our index file, it's a little bigger. I hope the content is inside. Not yet. Why not? It's not inside. Let's think, because probably we need to, yes, we need to extend a little bit where the template inside. Okay, because template should be in the root. So what we can do, we are going to the configuration, and here we can pass object with some template, and then saying my file will be in src and template html. Great. Save. Let's build again. Okay, now it's not so small. So I hope now in our dist folder, yes, we see our file. Still, stars are not needed here, but our script is already in place. Great. And now I can open in our default browser new file. Great. And it's working JS, but what's happened? Look, something wrong with the images. New problem. But as we see in the network panel, we have from all perspective, okay, there is an error, it's a failed, there is no, as we see here, in dist src, there is no src folder in dist. There should be dist src images and then logo. Of course, it's a problem, right? But we have bundle here, we have all styles, and we can already work with it. Great. So what's the next step to fix it? To fix it, okay, maybe before that I will talk about other plugin, maybe Clean Webpack plugin. So this plugin is also useful because by default this plugin will remove all files inside the Webpack's output path, which is a dist by default, and remove unused Webpack assets. Because every rebuild, it's producing our files and we don't know which file is the latest one, right? So it's hard to see. Maybe some first numbers will be the same. Okay, and what else we can do right now with the Clean Webpack plugin? Let's see. So to minimize the risk of producing all the time this one. So of course we can look for the documentation first. So let's go here, Clean Webpack plugin. Okay, it's not here because it's not by default by the team, and some person like John made it for us. Okay, so we have a plugin. Also, we need to install it. It's quite straightforward. Save dev, great. And we can require it at the top of our file because it's plugin, and the same because we said it's the way how the plugins are working. We can use more than one. So to do it, we just say new Clean Webpack plugin. Great, save. Let's start and build. If I will run build right now, it's fine. It's producing me the files, but in this folder already I have cleaned up connections. So I don't need to think which is the latest one. Okay, great. So what else I would like to tell you? As we see here, many times we did like go to back to our terminal, build folder, build our script. So what I would like to introduce is that with Webpack, we can have Webpack server, which will observe and do for us like all changes and producing files in the background, so we can very fast test our implementation, not jumping all the time between the applications. So how to do it is the Webpack dev server. We can install it, and after it, because it's not a piece of our configuration, it's just additional tool which is on top of our Webpack. it's wrapping Webpack, I will say, we can go to our package.json, and now instead of build, maybe not instead, but additionally, we can say start. And for the start script, I will say I would like to use Webpack dev server, and say with the one parameter like open by default when it's running. Okay. And inside it will do exactly Webpack because it's just a wrapper. If I would like to start with the production or development, it's also tricky to say -p for production, -d for development, so it's also possible. And now, if I will run it, so it will be npm run start. Look, it's Webpack dev server, and in my browser here, I have localhost 8080 already, and I have working solution here. Okay, that's great. And with this kind of change, what's happening here? In this folder, it's empty because all stuff was cached in the node server, which is here. So as we see how it's in node modules, Webpack server client, and then it's giving me all the resources inside. Okay. Okay, great. And one more stuff which I would like to do is to work with images. But something weird happened because already we have images in place. So let me kill server. Let me run it by npm build. Again, I would like to have files, and in default browser, I would like to open for you and show you how we can fix and do the caching for images as well. So for images, we installed already file loader, right? And HTML loader. So let's go back to the configuration. We have a plugin, okay. And now we can work with images. So what I would like to use right now is to fix our images. So for the rules, I would like to test, and I will just copy paste from our file loader. File loader is in the documentation for sure. So let's go to the documentation. It's file loader here. Yeah, so let's check if we have already installed in our package JSON. CSS loader, so file loader needs to be installed still. Okay, great. So we are copying that, installing, because now we will load static files. Okay, from perspective of importing. So in JS file, we will import our files. So we are trying to point what kind of resources we have. Okay. So in the index, let's say, because we already mentioned this is the files expected to have in the bundle, we will also import but our image. So I'm going up, images. In images we have this file, which I will just copy name to not make a typo. And now I have image. And before it even I will run our application, I mean build, it's an issue because it's not possible to parse it. Okay, and appropriate loader. Okay, so it's not, that's why the file loader it's expected. Okay,
So to do it, let's back to it. And for the test perspective, again, new test, getting this one, we will test PNG, JPEG, and GIF files, and then use file loader for them. But also we will use SVG. So in the next rule, I will use test, PNG, JPEG, GIF, SVG, and also file loader. But I already put here options. So I would like to maybe, let me comment this for you for now. I will try to build and see if we have working solution. Great. What happened? Look, there is SVG named by some hash number again. Okay, it's not friendly. But to see if we can use it, we need to point this image to proper place in our structure. So what we can do, if we go here, we can go in template. Now it's in src images, blah blah blah, and here is the name, right? So if I will do like, it's directly this name of file and save, I will try to build. Okay, now let's see our project. It should be in dist folder. Dist here. Okay, do we have this fixed already? Oh, sorry. Should be clicked. Let's see image, what happened here as school. Okay, it's still not injected. So to inject this one, it should be here. And again, this is file loader. Okay. So to do that, we need to import into the HTML some loaders as well. Okay, so let's read about HTML loader. Did we add HTML loader? Okay, and then for HTML file, it will import everything. Great. So again, let's install it. Before, let's check if I did that step before. HTML loader, still no. Okay, so to inject any resources, we need to install it, right? And then add in our configuration as an additional test. Okay, and now we are looking for HTML and saying, okay, let's load inside of it some of our resources. Let's build compiler, blah, 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 error template HTML. Okay, which means we need our template also injected in JS file, right? So our template and our image. Okay, so we are going to JS file. There was images. Okay, now because the path is not properly working, because this file injected should be how it will be connected to the file, but let me import it this way. So I will import from this route. Guys, do you hear me? Or I was lost a little bit for a second. Okay, cool. We are back.
So what we did, we just importing HTML and image directly to our bundle that it will know about it. And now let's try to do it again. So we are building. Again, some issue with the template and proper loader can't resolve. Okay, so to resolve the image. To resolve the image once again, I need to go to the template and it's in images directly. Okay, so it should be in images, not in the source, because source is like imagination file for the Webpack. And let's try again. Great, now we have SVG. Now we can try to run, and we see this name, weird name, as a file, right? SVG already injected. Great, so from network perspective, let's see right now what we have in the network. So if I will clean up and refresh the page, we see we have one SVG, one JS file, everything quite straightforward, right? Perfect. But I already give you like hint, we can have more options for our file loader. So we can expect that original name can be included. There can be folder images. There can be hash expected also for caching, and extension to not just point one by one which file. So in that case, after save and doing the build, we have in images rs-school.js file, which with the hash and SVG already. So it's also really great, more for humans. And now if I will see here images and the long name, great, and everything is working properly, right? Show, hide it, and we have example finally working. Cool. So do we have any questions? No. So we discussed about those plugins, how to resolve images, how to resolve CSS. I would like to maybe talk about what it's good to check else. It's about source map, which I mentioned, right? To verify our files. It's possibility to debug, which I already presented. Webpack -p or create Webpack prod config. Also for development, it will be Webpack dev config.js. And sometimes some loaders or plugins can be reused, right? So we will create probably as well Webpack common config.js and use additional tool like Webpack merge and combine these configurations, depends on what we need. So shorthand of running production version. Mini CSS extract plugin, it's also good to check because it's extracting CSS not in JS, in the main JS, but as a CSS file. Let me maybe show you from documentation perspective, right? So from documentation, no, we don't need this one. From documentation perspective, here. Okay, let's see what it can be done with it. So if we can import it, then we test CSS, and we, instead of the loader which we have here, we just saying it's I will say like a plugin which covers on top of the loader our CSS files, right? And then we can have like chunks, exactly. So the plugin will say, okay, file name for like root, for chunk as a small components which will be loaded later on. It can be separately, right? and when this should be even like loaded like public path too, because it can inject in different structure, very deep, I would say. Okay, I think that was about it. And questions. I think it's now time for questions. So if you would like to ask questions, you can unmute and ask. You don't need to write them. A bit off topic, how did you write code in multiple lines at the same time? Okay. So it was like a useful trick, as I see, right? So for example, I would like to encode, rename this tag at the same time. I'm clicking Command D in my Mac. So now it's looking for each header, and now I can type whatever at the same time. But also you can, as I remember, click here and click Alt probably, and now you can even like put many places and at the same time typing. So I hope you will find this option in your, it's built in, it's not Command D. Yeah, it's Control D probably on Windows and Command D on Mac. So each meta you just select Command D and just each time, and it will select the same text string in the editor. Okay, any questions? Not for the tricks. Okay, guys. So if no more questions, then thank you. I'm done. I hope it was useful for you. I hope you will enjoy using Webpack. It's not like you will programming inside of the Webpack all the time. When you will configure once, you will probably just do it once. But most of the times, like in the projects, one person did that, so not many people understands what's going on in behind the scenes. So I hope it was useful for you and you will be not afraid to read documentation and extend your configuration by yourself. So if no more questions, thank you very much. I'm stop recording and have a nice day. I mean, good night.